Hello friends, welcome back to the course of APM for the day 2. In this session, I will cover most of the practical way to install and configure APM server. Okay, so to just give you a review about what we covered in session 1 was the main architecture of APM, how it helps us to drive the end-to-end test automation, and also the significance of APM as a server, how it helps to drive the uh, your mobile applications. Okay. And next was which I mentioned about the different softwares and hardware requirements, which are the building blocks of your test automation. And each one of them I will cover today and in couple of sessions uh, as and how the time permits. Okay. And this was the infrastructure diagram, which is how we are planning to build by the end of the course, and how we can drive the test automation with this setup is something I will explain as and how we progress in the course. So this is an infrastructure diagram which you have to keep always in mind whenever you are trying to plan to develop a test automation framework for the mobile platforms. And these are the basic building blocks which you should keep in mind always. Okay, so to start with today, like initially I will start with the steps to show you how APM as a node server we will install and configure, and how we can bring it up and running. Okay, and also I will explain you different parameters as to what is their significance with respect to the test automation which you want to execute. Next is the Android SDK, which is the core part of this test automation, on the basis of which you will be able to communicate with the mobile devices, irrespective of whether it is virtual device or it's a real device. So as I mentioned, we will be covering the end-to-end Appium capabilities in this course on the Android platform. So that's why I have kept the scope limited to Android and its prerequisites. And Android virtual device is nothing but it's a component that comes with SDK, which is nothing but a virtual device inbuilt given by the Android SDK. However, this is not uh, recommended when you are trying to host virtual devices on the Windows platforms, because of the slow performance issues noticed so far. So my experience over using the virtual devices doesn't recommend you to use Android virtual device, but to use the Genymotion as a tool, which I will be also explaining in my course, how to host virtual devices using Genymotion. Okay, so Android SDK Manager is another component of SDK, which is a core component which helps you to install different uh, prerequisite API levels that are required for your test automation to drive on the application. Okay. Thereafter, once we set up the SDK, you need to set up the virtual devices, for which you need to install VirtualBox and Genymotion. And both the softwares how to install, I will show you with this course. Okay, just so once we are done with the setting up virtual devices, uh, if at all you don't need to work with virtual devices, I will also explain you how to set up real devices, for which you need to have some prerequisite PDA net software need to be installed, and how setting you need to make. That also I will cover as a part of this course. Thereafter, for your development environment, how you set up Eclipse, and as I'm covering Python as a programming language, so how to set up PyDev workspace for it, and the Appium client library. These are nothing but the Appium client binaries which I mentioned in my slides. So this is required to be imported in your dev environment so that you can communicate with the Appium server. Next is the Selenium, of course, which is required for the multi executions using the Selenium. But in this course, I will not explain the architecture of Selenium and its significance, uh, and also not necessary you have to understand it at this point of time during the course. So let's go one by one. From the top, I will start with Appium server. For the Appium server, you need to go to this website and click download Appium. When you click this option, you will have a option to download a package which looks similarly to this Appium for Windows. Okay. Now, if once you have this, okay, once you unzip this, you will have a installer inside it. So once you have an installer, once you install it, then at the default location it installs. In my case, I have installed it in the C drive. See, so if you see Appium folder created in your program files at your default location, then make sure you have a Appium exe along with the different language folders and all the node files also. Okay, so once you have all this, anyways the installer confirms the successful installation, but you have to cross check also the folders, and there you go, you have a Appium server which is installed for you. How to launch it is something I will explain by opening a exe. Okay, how we can use it is and how we can use it and what are the different components for Appium server to run is I will explain once I start uh, involving you in the end-to-end test automation script runs, and how it should be configured according to your need is how I will explain going further. You just need in today's session you should concentrate on how will I set up each and every component that is required for my infrastructure to be up and running. So Appium was the first part which I explained you right now. Okay, now next is the SDK. Okay, for this SDK, like you need to go to a website, the Android SDK, where you can click on one of their options, right? So for Windows, you can download this zip. Okay, so you have to go to this website and download this zip file. Once you download this zip file, you have a folder created for you like this, having so contents for you. Okay, where you don't need to run any installer for making SDK available, but yes, in after this has been done, you need to set up a SDK API levels for the test automation. Okay. Okay, so what are the API levels for each and every Android version which you want to test is something I will explain you right now. So consider you have to automate an application for Android version, 4.4.4. Then in that case, you might have a question about which API level I should choose for that. So you don't need to do analysis about which API level you have to actually install. It's simply mentioned in the tool, that is SDK manager, right? So once you double click this, okay, uh, you will see something, uh, a window like this will open up for you. Okay, now in my case, I was doing a testing for my uh, mobile application on 4.4.4. That's why I installed the latest API level. So there is no harm in installing a higher API level version than your Android version, which is under test. But never try to install or install the API level lower than the Android version which you want to test. Okay. So if you see in my current case, like I have 5.1.1, that is API level 22, which I installed. Okay. So you have to make sure, irrespective of uh, whichever version you choose, you have to select all these components to install, so that there are some specific folders which get available to configure the SDK as a complete development environment. Okay, once you install all these components under any API version, then you get of. So if you see, this has not been installed, but the one which I have installed is something I will show you. Okay. Okay. So this is the one which I have installed on my machine, and the similar folder structure will come up for you. Right now, if you see in your SDK folder, there was not much folder structure you could see. But right now, you see that after installing all these components like build tools and all these APIs, you get many more folders uh, under your SDK directory. Okay, so once these are available, then you are ready to set the environment variables which are necessary for running the Android APIs, and for which you need to set the SDK home directories. Okay. Now, how to set the home directory is something I will explain you. So, so if you go to the system properties, you will have the environment variables. Once you click this, so first what you do is you create a Android home named variable, and whose value will be the path up to the SDK directory. Okay. In my case, I had this here. So in our case, suppose when you download the SDK, and once you install all the API levels, then you will also have, maybe this path itself will give you all the folder structures, same as what we are seeing here in this folder, right? So wherever all these folders are located, you should give this path as the home directory. In our case, I have given this here. So if you see till SDK, I have given this here. Okay. Once you have the Android home set, then the same Android home you have to set in the path directory. So what I have added here is, along with the home directory, you have to add couple of more folders as a part of the as a part of the environment variable. If you see, I have used the Android home which I just created, and along with that I involved platform tools as a part of environment variable. Apart from platform tools, I also involved tools folder as a part of my and path variable. Okay, so so three these three paths you have to set as a part of the path environment variable. So okay, once you set this, how will you check if it has really got configured? Right? Then what you do is go to the command prompt. Okay, from any place, just hit adb command or Android SDK or ABD. Okay. So this will open a wizard which shows the Android Virtual Device Manager. So as I mentioned, due to this low performance issue on the Windows platform, I don't recommend you to use the Android Virtual Device Manager, which by default comes uh, with the Android SDK. Okay, so instead of this, I will be explaining you the Genymotion, which will be the virtual device software, which will be far more good in performance and also in the response time. So as of now, I just wanted to show if Android SDK has been configured properly, and we see that this AVD manager got launched. So I say that it has got configured properly. So other commands are like ADB. So if you see, with this command, I get the complete list of commands which are supported with ADB, and this also confirms that your Android SDK has been configured properly. Okay, so this is how we installed uh, the API levels for the Android version which we wanted to test using the SDK manager, and then we set up the environment variables as a part of the path environment variable, and those are now helping us to configure the complete Android environment. If and with these commands, we just tested them if they are working properly or not. Okay. So this part covers the end-to-end installation of Appium and the Android SDK. Now we have Appium and SDK configured. Now next we have to set up the virtual devices which we actually want to test. Okay, so in our case we can use virtual devices or we can use real devices. For this course I will cover both the types of devices. So let us start with the virtual devices first. Okay, now when I talk about virtual devices, here I mean to work with a software called as Genymotion. Okay. Okay. Now you have to go to their website first, and what you have to do, you have to subscribe. You have to register yourself there. So to register with the Genymotion uh, for in, for downloading the Genymotion software, you need to click sign in on their homepage. Okay. Okay. Once you click sign in, then you get a sign in option here where there is an option called as create an account. Okay. Once you click create an account, then you will see the fields which you have to fill up and provide your personal mail ID. It can be Gmail ID or Yahoo ID or any other personal ID. And once you register it, you will get a link on your inbox. And once you authenticate yourself through the inbox, then you are successfully subscribed on their website. Okay, so once you have username password which is helping you to sign success. Okay, so once you are registered and once you are able to log into their website, then you explicitly launch this link where you can download their Genymotion software. If you have already installed a VirtualBox, then just you need to download this, or else if you want an installer with VirtualBox, which will install VirtualBox first for you and then the Genymotion, then you can choose this package. Okay, so once you download the Genymotion software, it will be something like this for you. Okay, Genymotion 252. So this is the version which currently I have. Now, once this is a simple wizard which you need to follow to install the Genymotion. Okay, once you install it, then you will get a shortcut for you. So this is a place where you will have list of all devices which you want to configure. Okay, now to inform you that initially you will get an option here as login. Okay, without logging in you won't be able to add any devices in the list of virtual devices. Okay, so with the credentials with which you registered on their website, you have to log in with the same when there is a login option here. And once you log in, then these options get enabled for you. Okay, so now these are the two devices which I have added previously. But suppose you say that I want to add some specific device which are provided by Genymotion, then accordingly you can choose the version and the device model which can be very close to the model which you want to test, or if it is listed in the list here, then well and good, you can choose that device here. Okay, so for the specific Android versions, specific models are supported and they get listed out here. So once you see them here, you can just click next and follow the wizard, and that will install, and that will actually take some time to download the binaries of the particular device. And once that is done, you will see a device listed in this place. So I have installed two such devices of 4.4.4 Android version here. Now next, how will I launch the Android device is the obvious question that will come. Okay, it's very simple. You can just double click here. Okay, it will open, it will start creating the virtual device and it will bring up and running for you with the same UI as how you see a mobile device in front of you. Okay, so what is Genymotion doing is it actually is creating a virtual machine in the background which is running using the Oracle VirtualBox. If you see, this is showing as running here. So this means the Samsung Galaxy S5 virtual machine was created in the background by Genymotion software, and whatever you are seeing in front of you is nothing but a virtual machine in the form of an Android platform. Similarly, on the same machine, you can host multiple uh, Android virtual devices. So this was S5 which I launched. Similarly, you can launch S4 also. This is helpful when you have to test your piece of code on two separate devices to check the compatibility of the application, right? So in that case, you can just keep them besides each other and just trigger your test automation scripts, and you can see in front of you both the scripts working to automate the applications on both of these different platforms, right? So this is all about how to install and configure the virtual device using Genymotion software. Now, uh, okay, now once we hosted this, that's fine. Now, how we will make sure that uh, like if these devices have been configured properly so that they can communicate with our test automation framework. So again, coming back to the command prompt, if you remember, I had hit this command to check if Android SDK has been configured properly. Now with the same command, adb and devices command, I see there are two devices listed here. Why? Because there are two Android virtual devices running here for me. If I close any one of them, then I will see only one device here. Okay. So how is this IP address and what is this port is something I will explain you going further. Okay. So ADB devices is a command which will help you understand which are devices. Suppose at the same time you have some real device connected to your machine. So your ADB devices will also list that, right? In that case, it becomes difficult to manage these two different types of devices during the test automation run. For that reason, they have given the device name here. What you see here is the device name and the port which is exposed to listen the commands of an API that are hit to the Android devices. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear about the virtual device installation configuration and the parameters on which it runs. Okay, so once ADB devices list the uh, machine with this IP and this particular port number, then you can say that now a virtual device has been set up properly and is ready for the automation. So on our infrastructure part, we have set up Appium server, and we also set up the Android SDK with by checking the ADB commands, and then we set up the we have set up right now the virtual device. Okay, so not necessary your script will run on simultaneously on the virtual device and the real device. It's just the option that you can choose between as per your convenience. So now we will move to the configuring a real device, where we are expecting it to be listed here in the ADB devices, right? Right now we see only one device which is hosted as virtual device. If I have to see another machine in the list, then there are some settings which you need to do with the uh, real device. Okay. Now for that, what you have to have is, first you need to have a PDNet software client, which you can download it from. So you can download it from the pdnet.co./a/ is the website from where you can download the latest PDNet software for Windows. Okay, just when you click this, a software similar to this will be seen here. Okay, now once you install this, in the background it will start running, and you will see an icon like this which shows right now PDNet not connected. Why? Because I haven't connected a device. Now for our convenience, I will for our convenience, what things I will show on real device is something I will show through the team viewer, because recording the things through the camera would be not very clear for you. So just I will connect to my real device. So here with TeamViewer, what I will do is I will connect to my real device, and I will show you the different actions which I do to install the PDNet client on my mobile device also, so that this application communicates with the PDNet software on my computer, and then the with this, my ADB devices will recognize it as a device which is under test, right? Okay, so you don't need to worry about this TeamViewer software or something, because this is for your convenience and my convenience. I just want to show the UI actions that I will be doing to install PDNet, right? If you see, uh, this is the screen of my Android phone, which is 4.4.4. Okay, and there is and you can go to the Play Store and type PDNet, right? So now right now I have installed it. If you see, this is the one that I am referring to install on your mobile device. Okay, once you install this, okay, once you install this, then open it and connect your USB cable to the your computer. Once you connect to your computer, make sure it is uh, connected in a USB debugging mode. Okay, consider this was not selected previously. Now, uh, okay. So once you have USB debugging mode on, then you click USB tether. So once you have the USB tether set on, then uh, you can see the same device will be listed as part of ADB device. Now this confirms that the new device, this is a device name that comes by default from the device itself. So you don't have to much incline about how this name is coming from and how we can use or maybe change it. It's not much necessary. Just make sure that the device which you are expecting is listed as a part of ADB devices, and and here then we say that the real device is also configured properly. Okay, so going like, so once this is connected, I will also show you the scripts which we will create for test automation, that I will make it running on not only on the virtual device but also I will show you on the real device also. So today we completed about setting the infrastructure for the Android SDK, then APM, then for the virtual devices and for the real devices. So this is the test environment setup that we built right now. Now we have to build the development environment. In the next session, I will explain you how to configure Eclipse to write the Python based scripts for writing the APM code. Okay, and how we can set up the Eclipse platform so that it can directly communicate with the virtual devices uh, through the Appium server. So I hope you understood today's infrastructure setup part. Hope you have understood everything. Thank you, and see you in the next session.